with me, I have John O'Connor, VP of Product Management for Crypto4A, and my name is Juan Carlos Gutierrez Torres. I'm a Director for Solution Architecture with Venafi for the EMEA region.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, JC. So I'll jump straight in. So one of the first things to discuss, and I think this is a very important topic, is understanding where your cryptography is today. Cryptography underpins quite a lot of our systems today. It underpins our digital economy. It's in everything from your cell phones to your servers, to your Docker containers, IoT and edge devices, and really understanding where that cryptography is and how it's used to understand the scope of the problem, the scope of the challenges we have ahead of us is very, very critically important, and something we're going to discuss today. JC, would you like to add some comments on this one?
Yeah. So from a machine identity management perspective, obviously these are some of the top use cases that we're looking at. And the thing that I like to highlight here is that the number of places where you can find these different types of machine identities, all of them using the cryptography that was going to have to evolve, is everywhere, right? And this is I would say it's only getting worse in a sense, because there's more complex applications, there's more modern ways to do application development, that the number of machines is just growing exponentially. And so the complexity of having this type of transition from one cryptography to another only gets worse with time, regardless of whether PQC is in the picture or not, right? We already saw a lot of this complexity with the SHA-1 to SHA-2 transition, right? So it's really, really important to keep this in mind, this complexity everywhere we have this.
Yeah, you could kind of say, if you don't know the scale of the problem, then how can you budget and plan for that problem? I think that's a key element of building the business case for the transition. One of the elements that I think is critical here is discovery is very valuable to the process of firstly, or I suppose lastly, looking at a PQC transition. But if we put that aside for a moment, understanding your risks that you have today in your current systems, your current applications. For example, you may have applications using weak key sizes. You may have older software that's using older variants of certain protocols. And so the first step of why discovery is very important and can solve a business problem today, it is to help you manage and remediate the risk of the current classical cryptography. So really getting an inventory, getting this cryptography under control reaps a lot of rewards to increase your visibility, but also reduce your risk today. The second element that I would mention as well is, if you're doing cloud migration and moving your applications to the cloud, moving some systems to the cloud, again, these systems most likely rely on cryptography at the fundamental basic level. And so in order to successfully understand and plan for that migration and make those informed decisions, it's quite critical to do that discovery step. And then, of course, lastly, you can't do a post-quantum cryptographic transition if you don't know the scale of the problem. And I think what's key here is in building the business case to migrate to post-quantum cryptography, there's a lot of value you can gain from that today. And it's not just about a future threat. It's actually about solidifying and improving the security posture of today's systems, helping you do other migrations as part of your digital transformation journey. And of course, with that, the beauty of it is it also prepares you for a post-quantum transition. JC, what do you think of that as an element to help you build a business case for the executive teams?
Yeah, I think it's really good to be able to show. Once you build your inventory, you're able to show just how much of it you don't necessarily have control of. Often the focus is always on only those critical use cases, only the ones that caused issues in the past, right? But the truth is, any of these could cause you a problem if you ignore them. And obviously, if you don't know anything about them, then you are ignoring them. So I think having that discovery step is the first thing. Having the tools to be able to do it, but going one step forward is then making sense of that data. Um, Oftentimes you'll do a discovery and the amount of data is just too much to digest. We usually we have several ways to handle this. Some of the ways that I prefer is doing a combination of, for example, looking at your hopefully you have a CMDB that you can have some reliance on, but also having a process that enforces not just that things are going according to, for example, doing best practices for machine entity management, but also to do capture that level of information that you will need, so that then when you do a discovery, you know what you have, and then anything new already has all of the additional information that is needed to be able to replace. So this approach of having this process is really evolving. I think with DevOps and modern application development, the old way of doing things doesn't quite fit anymore. But I think most of it can be automated, and you don't even need to have somebody making decisions on where does this particular machine entity belong, who owns it, how do I change it, right? How do I switch algorithms? The other thing that I think is really interesting to consider is as you build this inventory and you're starting to gain that first step of control, it's doable. It's possible to do mock exercises of just how agile, how flexible your enterprise is to do this type of thing. And all you have to do is switch the one from one of the algorithms you're using today to another one that is available today. So for example, take one application and ask them, can you stop using RSA and start using ACC for your certificates, for example, for TLS, right? And see what happens, right? And you'll see that some applications will do it very easily, and some applications will struggle for technical reasons, process reasons, people reasons, who knows, right? So I think this is the first step of having the discovery, build an inventory that is actionable, and then try to start doing some of these exercises, right? It's very useful.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a very valid point, and I think perfectly brings us into the next slide, and that is the topic of crypto agility. There's a number of elements here from a crypto agility perspective that I think we need to be aware of. So traditionally, we did not build our systems to be agile, to allow us to adapt and onboard new cryptographic algorithms very easily. This requires significant changes. And we've seen this in the past with other migrations that have taken quite a long time. There's another element in that for the last 20 plus years, our cryptography has been relatively stable, and there has really only been a small number of algorithms for each particular use case. I think that is now going to change. As you see, we've already got 4 algorithms that are being standardized today. We've got 2 that are already standardized, so that's 6. We have another 4 being evaluated, and there's also a call for additional algorithms for various use cases. And this is really because there is no one size fits all, be it key size, be it performance, be it various parameter sets or security levels. And so we're now having to tailor our applications to use specific algorithms that are more suited for those use cases. So this is really where crypto agility comes in. And I think for the next 20 plus years, we're going to see changes, we're going to see churn. The stability that we've grown accustomed to is not really going to be there anymore. And also we have to be aware that there may be new vulnerabilities with some of these newly standardized algorithms, not the previous hash-based algorithms, but the ones currently in the standardization process. And we did see this as part of the last round at NIST, where the Rainbow algorithm had some vulnerabilities associated with it, and it dropped out of the competition. And so I think crypto agility is one of those requirements that is fundamental to deploying new infrastructure today, because it's going to save you a lot of money. It's going to save you a lot of headache in the future when we do need to make these changes. And I think that's one of those things where we highlight this all the time, but it is a changing environment, and it's going to consistently continue to be that changing environment. And that brings me to another type of agility that we want to kind of talk about today. So the topic of certificate agility. Now, of course, we've talked about discovery, finding and inventorying, and being able to manage and remediate your existing cryptography for all those reasons that we've both talked about. But when you want to start to test your infrastructure, we believe that the hybrid certificate methodology from Icera is very, very key. It's an extraordinarily elegant solution with backwards compatibility that allows you to deploy certificates today that have both classical support as well as post-quantum support. And for devices that simply don't yet understand those extensions, they have the capability of ignoring them. So this really allows you to start to test in your existing environment and infrastructure without the cost of having to stand up, a parallel additional PKI system as an example. It also allows you to basically migrate different parts of your systems at different times. So it's not trying to do this massive big lift all at the same time with a massive amount of complexity. And so, it's one of those technologies that we think really will assist in the migration and also in the testing, because I think it's very important that you start to test these new algorithms. You don't really know which ones are going to be suitable for your actual use case until you start to try them out. And so a big part of what we need to do as we create our transition plans is to discover, obviously, and then it is to start to test these algorithms and test these new types of certificates. You might ask yourself, why do anything? Why not just wait? Let other people go first. Let other people, figure out the problems, solve the issues ahead of time. Maybe there's nothing to lose in just standing still for now. What we would say to that is that there is a cost of doing nothing. As we know, we have a global skills shortage in cybersecurity. So this very scarce and skilled resources that we need to do this migration, everybody is going to want to acquire. So, standing back and waiting, those resources may not be available by the time that you choose to actually start down this journey. That, of course, potentially could increase your cost because these are very scarce and skilled resources. You also have an increased risk of getting closer to when this cryptography is obsolete without truly understanding how long it's going to take you to migrate, what is the size of the problem, how are you going to approach it, what technologies and tools are out there to actually help you. So, what we would really say is it's time to start looking at this. And as we've said previously, discovery has a lot of value, not just for the migration, but you really want to get ahead here, not to fall behind your peers and your competitors. We believe that being quantum safe will be a business differentiator, and it's something that your clients are going to require. We already see, requirements or recommendations, should I say, from NSA. This will be important to do business with government entities. And this is not really about, a big push of rip and replace. This is about beginning your transitionary plan and understanding how you're going to get there. JC, how do you feel about potentially just sitting back and waiting for others to approach this problem?
Yeah, I think that would be unwise, because I mean the train is coming whether you want it or not, right? So the difference will be whether you want to wait and have a massive project that will be way more costly than just doing a little bit at a time now. I think there's a component of this from a almost from a business continuity perspective, right? Because you for especially for certain businesses, you may be out of business once you're able to break this type of crypto if you're not ready to switch to something else. Um, but in general, right, anything that you do to improve your machine identity management posture, and this will be some of the things we were talking about crypto agility, but actually doing it, knowing where things are, knowing how you can change them, and going through the process of changing them, right? Making sure that you're automating everything that you thought you were automating, for example. Um, that would just reduce your effort later, right? Regardless of which algorithms or when you had to switch. I mean, we know that these things are evolving all the time, not just for post-quantum, right? I mean, you may have, for example, RSA 2K getting deprecated sooner than you thought, and you had to switch to something different. Well, there you go. Now you have a mess. This maybe more of a compliance mess, um, but so it is. So everything that you do today is only going to help you run better as a business from a machine identity perspective.
You definitely raised some interesting points, because this is not just about post-quantum migration. This is actually about um, a healthy way to manage your security posture and your risk, even with just today's um, classical cryptography. So I think we need not look at this as being something necessarily that's so new. We have transitioned cryptography in the past, but just maybe not at this scale. And I think that's the challenge that we face ahead of us. And we need, as a community, as an industry, we need to move forward together and take our time where we need to, and not be under so much pressure to meet deadlines by waiting too long. A number of key elements or steps to take would be, discover and take inventory of your crypto. That's going to help you today with security posture. It's going to help you with your transition. Test the algorithms that are being made available and the latest certificates, like the hybrid cert. Create a transition plan. The benefit you're going to get from this is you don't have to start immediately necessarily, but at least understand the scope of the problem and be able to understand how long this is going to take you. Another element of this is, you need to understand what your vendors' plans are. Do they have a PQC roadmap? What are their timelines for implementing these algorithms? Of course, in isolation, you can maybe start to migrate certain systems, but you don't necessarily control the future of all of those systems. So it's very important to understand which vendors that you're heavily reliant on, that you need to speak to and understand their plans, because I think this is really, as an industry, we need to kind of move in step together. Obviously some people will probably lag behind a little bit, but I think there's a lot of value in being early, and I don't think we're necessarily early right now. It's the wrong way to say it. I think 2024 is coming on us very, very quickly. So I think now is the time, to at least get that plan in place.
Thank you, John, for doing this. I'm very happy that we have these good partnerships. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, JC. I think what we learn from all of these things is that working together, and looking at this as a problem we all face, and facing it together, I think is pretty exciting. And I think honestly, it's an exciting opportunity for our industry to create a new solid foundation that can adapt and support our growing businesses and digital economy, and secure the future. I think this is where I get very excited about this. I know you do as well. It's not just solving a complex mathematical cryptographic problem, but I think we're actually solving some fundamental elements that can actually help our businesses today and in the future.